So really excited to welcome to the podcast today, Justin. On Instagram, he is 740 Smith Cards. Justin, how you been?
Oh, I'm doing good, Dave. Doing really good. I appreciate you having me on here. A couple Big Ten guys and some, MLB Central guys here. It seems like.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on. Your Instagram feed is just one of the busiest, most interesting ones that's going on. You've got high-end stuff, mid-end stuff, low-end stuff. So during the intro, I was telling folks about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, just a few weeks shy of it, you were on Stacking Slabs with Brett, and there was exciting things happening in your collection then. What have you been up to recently? What are some of your pickups, and what are you doing with your collection these days?
It's changed a lot. I no longer have a Tom Brady PC whatsoever. And if you would have during that conversation I had with Brett, I was talking about Tom Brady, and really Michael Jordan was my guy, but I couldn't get into those serial number Michael Jordans. So I parlayed a lot of those Tom Brady's I had, and I moved into a few higher end Michael Jordans, which I'm a kid of the 90s. We were all Michael Jordan fans. I'm a diehard Cavs fan today, but 10 and 11, 12-year-old Justin was definitely a Michael Jordan fan like everybody else. So I was able to take Tom Brady and move him into some Michael Jordan cards. I've still got my Eddie George. Still love it. He's my number one PC. Still got AJ Green. Still love my AJ Green PC. Been moving into a lot more baseball and basketball. My Eddie and my AJ PCs are in a really good place. There's only a couple cards I really want for both of those. So I've been able to spend this year buying some Reds. I really love the Reds. Buying some of the 90s basketball guys I like. Big Z, Jimmy Jackson, Michael Redd, those kind of guys. Enjoying the other athletes I like other than just Eddie and AJ.
Great. So there's some stuff we definitely want to get into for sure with some certain players in your PC. You mentioned AJ Green. There's some others we want to talk on as well. Well, but I'm thinking about how you moved on from Brady to move into some Jordan. Was that a hard decision? Was it gradual? Was it an epiphany? What was that like for you when you decided to make that move?
I've been trying to get into Michael Jordan for a while, and obviously the budget. You've got to figure out, using your real money, using your money from your PC, and those kind of things. And in all honesty, I was able to make a trade with a 2000 mirror gold Tom Brady rookie out of 35, and I was able to move into a Michael Jordan golden Boss refractor out of 74, and that was my ability to move higher into the Michael Jordan market. So once I did that, it was pretty much full steam go. I had a lot of 2000 to 2012 serial number Brady's, but they were smaller. They were the absolutes, the certifieds, that kind of thing. All worth, they were, smaller value, but I was able to move those and parlay those into more Michael Jordan cards, which I was happy about. I'm a high state guy through and through. It was hard for me to collect Brady when I wasn't a fan of Brady. I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was kind of trying to level out Eddie and AJ and having somebody who's going to have long-term value with Tom Brady. And I was able to take the Tom Brady's that I really wasn't a fan of and move him to Michael Jordan, who I'm a gigantic fan of. So it made perfect sense to me. I did have some really nice Brady's I didn't want to let go of, but at the end of the day, it made a lot of sense to where I wanted to be with my collection. So that's pretty much in the last year. Nothing's changed other than Brady's gone. Kind of like the NFL, Brady's gone, but I guess he'll be coming back this year.
He will be in a different form. He's never going to go away. I think he loves the spotlight too much.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's fascinating. That's really interesting to hear because when you scroll through your IG, when you look at the cards that you've got, there's a really like a wonderful mix there of cards. But Ohio is where your heart is, right? So Ohio
100%.
State, Cincinnati, Cleveland, different players from different areas out there. And I was just thinking about this today that this has been a really positive, strong decade for that region of the country, right? For so long, the Bengals were, let's say, like a lower tier team, right? And then the Burrow comes in and things turn around. The Cavs won a title. The Reds have some great young players. Ohio State's always Ohio State. What's it like for you right now, being a fan of that area? I don't even mean the collecting side of it, but just with what's going on in Ohio.
Oh, it's great. I mean, in all honesty, I like to collect late 90s sports cards. There's no Bengals I can really collect. I wasn't a fan of the Bengals because they were terrible. in that time frame. So I was an Ohio State fan, which brings me to Eddie George. 1996, he won the Heisman Trophy. In 1995, he won the Heisman Trophy, and then became a Titan. So the Bengals were so bad back then. I kind of watched the Titans, and then into my college and early years, the Buckeyes were great. We won a national championship in 2002. And then from that point forward, they were just one of the top tier teams. Still to today, that's one of the top tier teams. And same thing with their basketball program. They were never great, but they were always in the conversation. So it was easy to start liking people like Michael Redd and those kind of things. And then obviously in the last 20 years, we've had LeBron James, and the Cavs have been relevant for, what would you say, 15 of the last 20 years. Other than the years he was in Miami when they were terrible, even now they've got a decent young team. So it's been great being an Ohio fan. And the Reds, I mean, they're about as much fun as you can watch on TV. Ellie De La Cruz is magic. You know what I mean? So it's very fun to watch these guys. And the best thing is I've got some young kids, and they all love the teams I love. So I've got some people to root with, and it's just the best thing in the world.
So over the last 20 to 30 years from the period of Cincinnati and Ohio State that you enjoy, the late 90s onward or so, there have been some really notable players, not all of them Hall of Fame level, but a lot of them memorable. People who even if you're not a fan of those teams, you mention them and you think, oh, I know that guy, or I remember that player or whatnot. Before we hit record here, used a really awesome phrase. It was the idea of you collect the high end of the shallow end, right? So explain for people who are listening or watching this what you meant by that, by this idea of the high end of the shallow end.
Yeah, I love late 90s parallels, the PMGs, the Rubies, the grand finales, the 24 carats, all these awesome inserts, all these awesome parallels, pardon me. And I'm not buying the Barry Bondses. I'm not buying the Barry Sanders. I'm not buying the, Charles Barkley's and Scottie Pippens and all those kind of things. I'm going for the Sean Casey's, the mayor, who batted .302 for a career stat with the Reds. So, he was one of my guys, so I get the Sean Casey's. I'm not buying, the Tim Duncan Rubies. I'm buying the Jimmy Jackson and Zydrunas Ilgauskas Rubies. So I'm getting into these awesome sets with these guys that mean something to me and not, spending a fortune. So I'm on the shallower end. I can buy a Zydrunas Ilgauskas 99 Rubies for, a 10th or a 20th or a 30th of, the high-end guys, which makes it very, very fun to collect these guys. So I'm able to enjoy the guys I like in the collections I like. So, you don't have to be looking at the Barry Bondses or the King Griffey Juniors to enjoy these sets. Just like you with Brian Jordan, you can get into these awesome sets and these awesome parallels with guys you love, and you can have just as much fun collecting them. I mean, obviously, I do enjoy some Michael Jordans and those kind of things, but I don't have a money tree outside, so I can't go and buy all those. So I go and I enjoy the guys I enjoy, the guys who come back to Ohio, the Ohio State guys, the Cavs guys, the Reds. It makes collecting fun, and anybody can do it. You know what I mean? They're not cheap. I don't want to tell anybody they're cheap, but a couple $100, you can sell a few of your cards and get into one of these guys you like. It may not be Barry Larkin. It might be Sean Casey. It might not be whoever. It might be Aaron Boone. So, I can enjoy buying these cards of guys I really enjoyed watching and not break the bank. So it's a great way to collect if you want to collect in that avenue of late 90s cards.
So when you are diving into Sean Casey, to Reggie Sanders, Big Z, those types of guys, does having the freedom to go for their quote unquote bigger cards or more notable type cards, does that also in some sense maybe help feed your education in this hobby as well? Because, with some of those bigger players, there's no way you could, at least I could ever afford those types of players. And so wouldn't even bother looking at those cards. Whereas a player like Sean Casey, who we all have great memories of, incredible player, you do have that ability to dive into those higher end cards, the lower serial number cards. Does it also help with your understanding of what's available to you in the hobby?
Yeah, and the funny thing is though, like, I do like these guys, like the Sean Caseys and the Z's. Sometimes these guys are hard to find because these guys have been thrown in a value box in 1999. You know what I mean? Because not everybody was buying the legacies or any of this stuff. It's like, oh, it's Sean Casey. That's going to be worth $2 down the road. So sometimes it's hard to find them. Like, I've got a 1999 precious metal gems Zildjian Ilgauskas. It's like a pop two. A Jimmy Jackson rubies. It's a pop one. So I mean, like, these things are hard to find because they were thrown away. It's not like the Peyton Manning is going to be graded right as soon as you get it. Right in 1998, Randy Moss would be graded as soon as somebody would find it. It would be put up or it would be put into a hard case, and it would be in a top loader and be in somebody's showcase. Whereas Sean Casey's not going to be seen in the same light as those guys. So it's hard, but when you find it, it's a lot of fun. Those mail days are just as much fun. And in all honesty, I was lucky. Like, Eddie George is my guy, and I learned a lot of these inserts or these parallels and even inserts through collecting Eddie George. And I learned about the Super Raves, the finales, the rubies, the atomic refractors, all that stuff from collecting him. So it was easy to move into basketball and baseball. Obviously, basketball is a whole different animal. Even the common guys are expensive just because it's such a worldwide collected sport. But baseball right now isn't terrible. You can get into some of the guys you want, the atomic refractors or the gold refractors or even the rubies for a decent price. I mean, nothing's cheap anymore, but you can still enjoy collecting those kind of parallels with guys you really like.
What are some of your approaches to trying to track down those cards that are hard to find, of those pretty good players who, they're PMGs or whatever, when, they don't always pop up. They have the low pop. So how do you go about trying to find them?
First of all, I've got a really, really good friend sources on IG. One thing is, like, if you're into those kind of cards, find some guys to talk to. Most of them are super cool. And you'll know really, really easily if you try to talk to somebody, they're either going to talk to you or they're not. And then, find those kind of guys. And like if you follow my page or something like that, you'll see some of the guys that I follow, and they're all super. Or pretty much, if you listen to a lot of these podcasts, you'll hear somebody who will have some interest into something you're going to want to look into, and then you just talk to them. You know what I mean? And then you get group chats. Everybody looks out for everybody. Or you might find somebody, like today I was talking to somebody about a 24 karat gold card, and he just put a story up, and he's like, just showing one. I'm like, hey, if you ever come across any reds, let me know. And he's like, hey, by the way, this guy just let me know he has 20 different cards. Let me see if he has any reds. And he had a Mike Cameron. He's like, let me find out what he wants for it. So, just ask people. And, then obviously you go to the eBays, the Goldens, the PWCCs, you go to Card Ladder and you do the showcase and you type the guy in that you like and just start going down and seeing if there's any of those cards in there. And don't be afraid to ask anybody. The worst thing that can happen is say that it's not for sale. And sometimes you'll never know, and somebody might just have it. It's just knock down every door, find some knowledgeable friends, and learn as much as you can. Obviously, none of us are experts, and well, there are some experts, but I didn't come back in until 2021. I missed the late 90s of collecting. I was in the CDs, music, and everything else at that point, so I missed that frame. So I had to get educated when I got back into the hobby. And if it wasn't for some friends, I would be like everybody else and just scratching my head and looking at the 5,000 different Panini prisms and color wheels and all that kind of stuff. So it's, just educate yourself is the best thing I can say.
So obviously Michael Jordan is the most expensive of the expensive type cards. Eddie George is not cheap. You posted this incredible atomic PSA 10 the other day of Eddie George, which was just a beautiful card. But you've also got these other cards that you're interested in, which are high-end cards of mid-end type players. How do you go about allocating funds or knowing which to go for at a certain time? Do you kind of go in waves? Do you just see what's presented to you? How do you know which way to go in your collection at any given moment?
Like right now, Eddie is on the back burner. There's like 4 cards I want of Eddie's right now that I would like drop everything to go get. And, they're ghosts. Like they haven't sold in 10 years and that kind of stuff. And AJ's pretty much on the back burner. So right now I'm focusing a lot of my time on Reds players, Jason Williams, the Kings point guard, and some Z's and some Jimmy Jacksons, but big Z's and Jimmy Jacksons don't pop up hardly ever. I've got one coming in the mail from Australia, actually, a Jimmy Jackson card, and it should be here in a couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to that. But just randomly, and once you find a bunch of friends, and if they see one of these cards anywhere, they shoot you a DM and say, "Hey, look, I saw this. I know you're into this kind of thing," and just have people that are looking out for you. So, like right now, my main PC focus I would love to find some Barry Larkins. I would love to find a Super Rave. I would love to find some Rubies. They just aren't popping up right now. Like Jason Williams and Barry Larkin right now are my two number one that I'm going for, but I can't find a Barry Larkin to save my life right now.
And both those guys have lots of collectors, right? I mean, there are collecting bases for Barry Larkin. He was, in my opinion, he was really the precursor to Nomar, A-Rod, Jeter, right? Before Larkin, there was Ozzie Smith, and my opinion, and I'm biased, the greatest defensive shortstop of all time. But the guy hit something like 25 career homers.
Exactly. Yeah. And Barry Larkin is a fantastic baseball player. Obviously a Hall of Famer, 1995 MVP, but he brought power to the shortstop, just like you're saying with Nomar and those guys. And but I mean, in all honesty, I've only found a handful, maybe 2 or 3 guys on Instagram that collect Barry Larkin, and we're all in the same boat, trying to find these cards because we can't find them. One gentleman, he has quite a few of them. He goes by Neon Lights. He's got an awesome Barry Larkin collection, and I know he's looking for a couple of different ones. But other than that, I can't find Barry Larkin cards. Which you can find some of the lower end ones, but like when you start talking grand finales and rubies and those kinds, there is a couple of 99 rubies on eBay. They're just priced higher than I would like to pay for them. So I mean, I'm not going to just pay to get those cards. But for as good of a baseball player as he is, and for as long as he played, it's just hard to find his cards. And obviously Jason Williams isn't a Hall of Famer. He just got a massive collector base because the culture he brought in, and he was big when the N1 videos were big, and he played with flair. So a lot of people enjoy his style of basketball. And in all honesty, his prices are stupid, and I do have to really worry about which ones I want to buy and which ones I don't want to buy, because basketball cards are 4 or 5, 6x what a baseball or a football card is, it seems like. So you've really got to pick and choose what you want to do when you're buying basketball cards, because it's hard to say, yes, I'm going to spend X on a guy who's not a Hall of Famer, like Jim Jackson. Everybody may know who Jim Jackson is. He played in the league forever. He played for like 12 teams because he was always good enough to get traded. He was always good enough to play 25 or 30 minutes in a game. He was never good enough to keep for 2 years. And now he's on CBS. He does the NCAA games. He does the Final Four. But like if you start looking at his higher end cards, since they're so hard to find, the prices go up because of set collectors. It's like, how many of these cards do I really want to own? Because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not in it for the value, but at the same time, I don't want my cards to go to zero. So it's like, how can I spend all this money on a few Jimmy Jackson cards? So I try to make him. He's like 3 or 4 cards in my collection. I don't want a ton of him. Barry Larkin, I love to have a lot of his. Sean Casey, I'll collect him because he doesn't break the bank. Michael Jordan, I only have a few of his cards because I can't afford a lot of his cards. So you just got to figure out your avenue. So when you're living in that, almost Hall of Famer, like AJ Green, Eddie George, Joey Votto, hopefully he will be a Hall of Famer, but those guys are all close to being a Hall of Famer. And I think they got a big enough fan base that their cards will always have a spot in somebody's collection.
So you mentioned before that your kids collect modern players, active players. You collect players who are retired and you have certain memories of or appreciation of. Have your kids, when they look at your cards, do they ask questions? Do they learn from your collecting, or are they just more focused on who's there now?
This is the only time I'll ever call myself an influencer, because yes, I try to influence my kids and teach them what they're looking for, what they want to look at when they're buying, rarity and all that kind of stuff. So like when we're looking at stuff, we do family trade nights where when I want to consolidate into something, for example, I had a Jonathan India 1/1 Superfractor rookie. I did not want to consolidate that into something, and my oldest son loves Jonathan India. So I took a whole bunch of his Tyreek Hills, Patrick Mahomes, Jamar Chases, and I took those and I sent them to consignment, and he has a 1/1 Jonathan India Superfractor, which to him is the coolest card in the history of the earth. And instead of me, consigning that because we'd never get it back, it's still under my umbrella of collecting because my son owns it. So, I was able to get rid of his $10, $15, $20 cards. And in return, he was able to do that. And I've taught them about, platinum medallions. And I've got a son who's collecting the whole gold medallion 1998 set. So, he's not doing the platinum medallion run. He's doing the gold medallion run just because, it makes sense to him because, you can buy those for $2 and $3. Whereas, his biggest one, he got the Michael Jordan for Christmas, and I think I paid like $75 for it. So once he got the big one, he could start buying all the other ones to make that run. So I think it is my responsibility to teach them, and especially since my wife has no idea about my cards. And so, if something, heaven forbid, happens to me, my kids will at least be able to tell mom, "Hey, mom, that's worth more than you think it is." So make sure you take care of that stuff. And they do a great job. Like my 9-year-old collects Hall of Fame linebacker on-card autographs. So it's got to be a pack-pulled card, and it's got to be a Hall of Fame linebacker. So, how many 9-year-olds are collecting autographed Hall of Fame linebackers? He's not after the Lamar Jacksons or the whoever's the CJ Strouds. He's after, Junior Seau. He's after Derek Brooks. So, which is, to me, is one of the coolest things in the world that he's chasing that kind of stuff. And I have a friend, he goes by C Nice Cards, and he's a big Ray Lewis guy. And my son's biggest deal ever was he bought a 2005 Black X-Factor around 25 Ray Lewis off of him. You know what I mean? Because it's my friend is making a deal with my 9-year-old now. Obviously, I was a middleman in that deal, but it's pretty cool, to have something like that. And he's not out there getting CJ Strouds. He's not out there getting, who are Tua Tagovailoa or one of those guys. But I mean, they do everybody likes Jamar Chase. Everybody likes Tyreek Hill. I get it. I'm not going to get mad at them for wanting that stuff. And obviously, but I do love it when they're going for the Johnny Benches, the linebackers, all that kind of stuff. It's just fun. Like I say, my one boy, anytime he sees a platinum medallion in a dollar box, he buys it. He just bought a Jacques Vaughn for I don't know. I think he paid $8 for it. And the last time we looked, it was doing better now. I'm like, dude, you just scored. Obviously he doesn't know who Jacques Vaughn is, but he thinks it's cool.
That's awesome. How did your son react when he opened the Jordan Gold Platinum or the Jordan Gold Medallion?
He thought it was very cool. He thought it was very the gold medallion because he knows my platinum medallions and everything. He saw that and he thought it was cool. And he's like, I'm going for the set because And then next thing you know, because he talked about it. I bought him 25 of the commons. I just bought a lot off of eBay. So that's how he started his binder. So he had the Michael Jordan, then he had 25, Weber, Rodman, Tony Kukoc, Tracy McGrady, and he just started putting his binder together. So it was just a cool aspect for him to start collecting cards. And my kids got into collecting they were wrestling fans. So we bought some Topps Finest or something like that in 2018, and they started buying some wrestling cards. And then when the Panini came out, they bought some of those and they made the base set of the first Panini wrestling. So that's how they learned how to set collect was, base Panini wrestling cards. So however I can get them to do something that they're interested in, I'm not if they want to collect wrestling or soccer or whatever it may be, I'm going to let them go in their avenue, but I'm still going to try to push them towards, stuff I like because that's just, my nature. If it's going to be my money spent on it, hopefully it's something I like too.
Did you ever imagine that when you got back into collecting and when they got into it a little bit, that you would have used the term, this is the only time that you're going to be an influencer is with them. But did you ever imagine that it would become such a family activity that it has?
No, kind of, I guess. I do everything with my kids. I coach them in sports. We watch the Reds every single night together. Even when we have football or baseball practice or basketball practice, we tape the Reds and we don't start watching until we get home. And then we'll watch it on, one speed until there's a score happening and we'll slow it down. But they do everything with me. So I'm going to take every moment that they want to hang out with their dad and hang out with them because hopefully, they've watched football with me. They do all that stuff with me. So hopefully, I've used this term before and I use it all the time. Hopefully this helps me live forever because hopefully when I'm gone, they collect and they teach their kids to collect and they talk about how they collected with their dad and, all that kind of stuff. And it means the world to me. It's the reason I collect, they were going to go to the National with me, but they did a trial run at a 400 table card show, and they couldn't hardly do it. So they're like, "Yeah, we're not doing the national, Dad." And I was okay with that because I met with my friends and all that kind of stuff. So it was easier for me to let them down because I really wanted to hang out with my friends in the hobby. But I want to hang out with my kids too. But I wanted to look for certain cards for me instead of going through dollar boxes at the national. So you know what I mean. So it was a double edged sword, but I still bring them home cards from the national and all that kind of stuff. And anytime I'm looking for a card, they look for a card. And like I said, my oldest son loves AJ Green, so he's collecting the Panini Select and Prism tie dye out of 25 AJ Greens. I collect the Prism Gold out of 10. I need the 18 and 20. If any of your listeners know where an 18 or a 2020 AJ Green Gold is, only two I need for my set. But he collects the tie dyes because they're cheaper. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a chip off the old block, but it's so much fun to collect with them. And anybody who has that chance, they know. I mean, I guarantee people at the same time are listening, going, "Yeah, I know how that is," and I hope to grow old collecting with them.
That's great. That's fantastic. So you went to the national. You were in Cleveland. How was that experience for you? And did you pick anything up?
Oh yeah, I love this year's national. I went to Chicago last year, and I went to Atlantic City the year before, and I had a great time. I was able to find cards that I was looking for. I did get a very, very nice Michael Jordan card, and I traded for it, and I got a 1998 Upper Deck Gold 1/1 Michael Jordan card. So it's a very big Michael Jordan card, but in 1998 it's a flagship. They do have more than one Michael Jordan in that, but it's the only 1/1 of that one. And if someone wants to look at it, they can look at my page and see it. But that was my big pickup at the national, and I also got a Jason Williams 2003 Topps finest out of 25 gold, which I love. That's LeBron's rookie year, and it's kind of, to me, it brings the finest shiny, and it brings the 91-92 skybox because it's got like the different colors and different things in the background like an old skybox card does, but it's a shiny gold finest out of 25. So it's an awesome card. He's a Memphis Grizzly in that card, but I was still a Jason Williams fan at the time. So those were my two big pickups at the national. And like I said, it was a great time. And I know, but I'm an Ohio guy, so I think Cleveland's awesome. I know there's things to do, but as I've told some friends in some of our chats, you just give me, I'm not into the pomp and circumstance of celebrity and all that kind of stuff. Give me a card show, give me a diner, give me a dive bar, give me 4 or 5 friends to hang out with. I don't need anything else. That's all I need. I don't need, the lights, the DJs, anything like that. Just give me friends talking about cards.
So you won't be in line then for the Travis Scott Cactus Jack, whatever it is, box that they were giving away at the Fanatics Fest or whatever that thing was called?
There's zero chance I will be doing that. Now, I do like a nice pair of Air Jordan 1s, but I'm not going to be standing in line to get a Travis Scott, whatever you call that. So, and the Fanatics Fest seemed like it was a great time. And New York City is obviously better than Cleveland. I get it. But I don't need Jake Paul buying a card to make me want to go to a card show. I don't care. I would rather snoop around, look at 5,000 different tables, looking for that one prize I'm looking for, than have to be, watching over my shoulder because security's running through. And there were some awesome experiences there. It's just not what I'm looking for as a collector.
No, cards and friends. What more do we need? Right.
That's 100% right.
Yeah. So I didn't. As we were talking about what we're going to be talking about. I did not prep you for this question, so I don't mean to blindside you with it, but you don't collect active players. You do collect Cleveland players. Sometime in the next year to 3, whenever he finally acts his age, LeBron is going to retire. Yeah. At that point, does he have a place in your PC, do you think?
I've had a couple LeBron cards in my past, and I owe the 2016 championship. Kyrie had a lot to do with that. No one gives Kyrie credit, but the last couple of games he scored 40 points also. But obviously LeBron had the block. Kyrie had the shot. Kevin Love was in Steph Curry's face. But LeBron, and it was LeBron's team. We all know LeBron won us that championship. I do not dislike LeBron. The only problems I have with LeBron, one of the number one things I think about is I'm going to take my talents to South Beach. That quote he said there. Obviously he came home. And then, he's a Laker. And, I wish he would, and I get it. Life gets in your way. He wants to be out there. He wants to be in Los Angeles. I get it. There will be a time when I get some LeBron Jameses. He is the reason we have a championship. he is the reason. I mean, you can say what you want about everybody else. He's the reason why the NBA is where it is today. I mean, I'm a Michael Jordan fan through and through and through. LeBron James isn't too much far behind that guy. I mean, just from what he can do as a point forward, how he's still 40 years old and he's the best player on the Olympic team. I mean, yes, Steph Curry had a great time at the very end of it, but LeBron James was the best player on that team through the end. That's my opinion. People can, say what they want, but I mean, it's amazing what that guy does. And yeah, I will probably own a few LeBrons, down the road. Just not right now because I can't buy cards of somebody when they're a Laker. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, he gave us a lot, but just right now is not the right time.
Completely get it. Born and raised in St. Louis, Pujols left, Pujols came back. All sorts of mixed feelings, and yes, there was that magical year of 22 that he had, but he's still left, right? And it's one of those times I think that adults, and you and I are about the same age. It's when adults act like kids is when someone makes a business or a personal decision and they leave, but it still kind of cuts at
and
a little bit.
I'm not mad at LeBron for leaving. I mean, the second time, obviously, we were good with it, but just the way, and he was young when he said the talents of South Beach. He was young, and he's apologized for it. But like, as being a Cleveland Cavs fan, that broke a lot of hearts because we thought we were this close. We were supposed to play in the championship against the Lakers the year before that, and he was already thinking about getting out the door, and we lost to the Magic. I was actually at one of those games, and he made a half-court shot buzzer beater, to win against the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. One of my best memories ever as being being at a game was him making that buzzer beater to beat the Magic. And then we just couldn't do it. Now, that team around him was not very good. And we did have the best record in the league, but Delonte West and Mo Williams, they're not big guards. You know what I mean? Dwight Howard, Lewis, Hedo Turkoglu, they were big, strong, long. We couldn't match up with them. I love Z. Dwight Howard, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. That dude is a freak. You know what I mean? And like Big Z had no chance of guarding Dwight Howard in that series. So
and Jimmy Nelson was short, but he was strong.
Oh, he was strong. I mean, Mo Williams was a decent point guard at that time, or Delonte West, and they couldn't hold him down. You know what I mean? And like you say, then you've got Rashard Lewis and Hedo Turkoglu, who were just bullying our other guys as well. We just couldn't match up. So, and I think that's when LeBron realized he needed help, and that's why he got with Dwayne and Chris Bosh and those guys. So I'm not mad at him for doing it. It's just the way the talents of South Beach. I mean, the interview was what kind of I can't forget that. As a Cleveland fan, I just can't forget it.
I get it. You have brought up now. I brought him up once. You've brought him up 2 or 3 times. Big Z, Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Why him? Right? There were some players who we associate with that time. The first time that LeBron was in Cleveland. What is it about him and his cards do you think that have attracted you to put him as part of your PC?
He's late 90s, and he played up for us for 12 years. I think he was a 2-time All-Star. So like he's in the late 90s cards. He was there when Michael Jordan retired in 98 for the second time before he came back as a Wizard. I was a Cavs fan like 99, 2000, 2001. It was Z, it was Andre Miller, it was Wesley Persons, Jimmy Jackson, Clarence Weatherspoon. Like, the reason I know all those guys' names is because that was a team I'd play in NBA 2K in college. And that was a team I beat because Wesley Persons did not miss a three-pointer. And I would always try to get Andre Miller with like 30 assists. And Andre Miller, I've thought about him too. He is a very underrated point guard. You know what I mean? He was just slow and got to a spot, but like he was a very underrated point guard also. And maybe down the road, I'll try to get some Andre Millers. It's just Big Z was a staple, great guy. Everybody loved him. Just a great ambassador for the Cavs. So it made perfect sense to find him and start collecting his cards. When I started looking, I was able to find a couple of nice ones I really liked. So I mean that helps too. I mean, don't get me wrong. When you've got 3 or 4 different people you're trying to PC and you're looking for these things and you find one, you're like, yeah, Big Z would be a good guy to collect. Plus, I think he played for the Heat 1 year after the Cavs, but he's a Cav. He was a backup for the Heat. So, he's through and through a Cav. So all of my guys, mostly are either from Ohio State guys, or they played for either the Reds predominantly or the Cavs predominantly. I try not to do anything else other than that. Now, I mean, I will pick up some guys here and there that you meant something to me as a kid just because of, nostalgia and all that kind of stuff. And I've enjoyed, before it was only, I had 3 PCs. I had Brady, Eddie, and AJ. And, I mean, that was the predominance of all my collecting. So now that I've shrunk some of my collections to 20 apiece, I can get these other guys and I can enjoy the guys I liked. Like I've really been going back and paying attention to who I liked in baseball recently. Maybe because my son plays travel ball. And all we do is we're in a batting cage. We're talking hitting and all that kind of stuff. So, the Gary Sheffields, the Tony Gwynns, the Juan Gonzalez's, those are the guys I liked when I was a kid, when I wasn't liking the Reds. So I'm like, down the road, I would like to get into some of their cards as well, just because they meant something to me. Julio Franco was my favorite guy to intimidate. When I was we were in the backyard playing baseball, you'd want to do his stance, or Gary Sheffield exactly. So it's like, I would like to have a few of their nicer cards, and it's just figuring out the time to get them. And luckily, I don't plan on stopping collecting anytime soon. So that's down the road, and I'm just spitballing here. But like I see where I want to go down the road, and it's like getting some of these guys I really enjoyed that'll tell the story of what I liked as a kid.
Yeah, and there's no finish line, right? Where
Absolutely.
In fact, when we do reach the end of a project, there's more of a feeling of emptiness than there is of fulfillment, because for some anyway, because the chase ends and you realize that's the end of something.
Well, in all honesty, at the end of last year, 2023, my AJ and my Eddies were in a great place. So I didn't have a lot to chase. And how everybody, typically they would put like, go New Year's resolution. These are the 5 cards I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for going in. Mine was blank because I was trying to, and I was talking to one of my buddies, actually Zan. We were talking about, it's like, I'm in a good spot where I can start trying to figure out what my next move is. You know what I mean? And my next move has been Jason Williams and baseball. That's where I went, because that was kind of where I wanted to go. And I've had so much fun collecting those guys. You know what I mean? It's given me an opportunity to get into a different avenue. Like I said, I knew the same cards because of Eddie, because I was already collecting those same cards of Eddie George. Just now I'm collecting of baseball and basketball players. So, and then, the Z's and the Jimmy Jacksons and those kind of things have made their way into it, because I've found the ability to collect those guys as well. As, I mean, the Tom Brady funds helped out a lot. I mean, to be honest with you, I was able to move that stuff and get into stuff I would rather do. I was a basketball player, so I want to collect these guys. I watched all through college and high school. That's where I wanted to go. And baseball was when I was younger than that. So my baseball is like, pre-college area, and then college area is basketball. So it's like I've got 2 different areas I can look at and enjoy.
So I want to read you something. They're your own words. And I thought this was really interesting thought. And you posted this on Instagram a couple weeks ago or whenever it was. And I'm going to read it to you, and then I want to ask the meaning, or if there's a story behind it. And this is what you wrote. You wrote, "Sometimes cards you should own come up, and it either is not the right time or the right seller, or the right vibe isn't there. It's okay. The card isn't supposed to be yours. Everyone knows it fits your PC, but the time isn't right, or the price isn't right. It's okay. Blink. It's cardboard. Everything is going to be all right." What was that about?
Isn't that poetic? I put that out there. There was a card that I was really interested in. I'm not going to name the card, and anybody who knows me will be able to figure this story out pretty easily. But there was I would say it's, of my PC players, of one of them, it's his best card, and it's sold on eBay for like $65 overnight. Just boom, $65. And somebody bought it. Good for them. I would have bought it too in a heartbeat. And, I thought I was going to get the card. I thought I had the chance to get the card. I was in talks with the owner to get the card. And then a few days later, he's like, "I don't want to do a deal until I get the card in hand." And then I get a message, and he's like, "I got a deal I couldn't refuse, so I sold the card instead." So I never had the chance to, renegotiate or anything like that. Come to find out, it wasn't much more than I offered him. And another guy buys the card, and it was a collector. It was supposedly a collector of this certain player. And then last week or 2 weeks, whenever it was, a story sale comes up of that card, for a multiplier of however many you want to say. And, tons of people are shooting me DMs saying, hey, this card, this card, this card, this card. And I saw the card, I saw the price. And at this point, these cards that I collect, they're supposed to be hard to come by. They're supposed to be hard to find. They're not supposed to be easily available. And all of a sudden, this card's been easily available 3 times in a row. And I mean, the price was okay. I mean, it was obviously high, but the price was okay. I could have bought it. And I sat back and I thought to myself, this card has already aged me a little bit because, I saw it. It was easily available. Somebody got it. Then I thought I was going to have a chance to get it. Then I missed it. Then I've had another chance to get it. And like I said, it's this player's best card, but I've got a great collection of this guy. So this one card is not going to make or break my collection. So at that point, I sat back, I realized, and I'm like, if I'm supposed to own this card down the road, I will have another chance. I'm not just going to go ahead and buy it today. And it did sell. I think it got the price the gentleman wanted. Good, congratulations, all that kind of stuff. I'm not mad at anybody for it. But at the time, the card, I didn't want the card, even though it's the best card of one of my PC guys. I was like, it's not supposed to happen this way. And it shouldn't have been this readily available, this important of a card be seen by 3 different owners this quickly. And I'm very big against keeping things out of the vortex, the flipper vortex. You know what I mean? If it's something like that, I don't like seeing it like that. And that card kind of already got like it's the town bar scene already. Everybody's already seen it. Everybody's already sat on it. I don't want it today. And looking at it, I was like, it's just cardboard. Who cares? And that's where that came from. It wasn't to be anything other than me like just letting it out saying, I know this card should be in my PC. I know it's an awesome card. It's just not time for Justin to own this card today. And I was perfectly cool with it. We've had cards that keep you up at night, right? You'll go and you'll sleep and you'll try to go to sleep and you're like, I need this card. I need this card. I slept like a baby that night and I was super pumped about it. The day I found out it sold on eBay for $65 and it was bought at like 6 a.m. or 10 at night. I was in bed, I was like, I had to find it that next day. I was like, I put an all points bulletin. Who bought this? I need it. I will pay you, absorbent amount of money for it. And from that point to the point when it was on somebody's story sale, my thought changed completely. And it was a good thought. And like I said, yeah, they are just cardboard. Who cares at the end of the day? I will have other memories of other cards. And if that card's supposed to be mine, it will be mine one day. And I will be happy. I'll be super pumped about it. I'm just as excited about collecting today without it as I would be if I had it.
Some cards, look good in our PC and some cards serve as lessons and perspective,
Yep.
Maybe this was one of those.
And I think it was. And, and I had some other people reach out to me saying, this is so true. Then they're like, we've had the exact same thing happen to us. I thought I was going to get a card or I thought I wanted a card and I missed it, or the seller wants 4X for it, or, somebody else bought it, or whatever the story may be. But that resonates with all of us. You know what I mean? We think we need something and then give it a day or two, just blink. We don't need it. You don't have to have it. We think we need it. We're all caught in the moment. We know the whole FOMO thing, but it's an awesome card, and whoever has it, I will look at it and hopefully I see it on Instagram and I can congratulate the guy and be like, I hope you love it and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't need it that day. And that's where that came from.
Yeah. Well, Justin, remind us as we wind down here one more time, which AJ Greens that you're looking for, those years of those gold prisms.
I appreciate that. 2018 and 2020.
2018,
gold prism. Those are the 2 I need for my run. And I've needed them for a little over. There's one 2020 that's been on eBay for a year and a half, but they want 5X of what, they want. I would probably pay half of what they want for it, but I'm not going to, just because I need it, but I'm not going to pay what they want for it. You know what I mean? And it's their card, so they can ask for whatever they want. I understand that. I'm just hoping one of the other 9 show up. But I would love to finish that run because they're the only Panini cards I own. I don't own, I've never seen a black finite AJ Green. I would love to see one. I don't know if I'd be able to afford one with how crazy that area is going in the hobby. And, but I would love to see one. And those are the only cards that I really collect out of the Panini era. I can't even think of another card in my box that I have that's Panini, to be honest with you.
Well, if you're out there listening and you have access to this card or know where it is, or asking a sane price for it, reach out to 740 Smith Cards on Instagram. Justin, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Hey, Dave, I appreciate it. Sorry, I ramble and I talk a lot. So thank you for the chance to talk cards. I would love to talk cards with anybody, anytime. It's one of my favorite passions. So, Dave, thank you for the opportunity.
All right, man. Take care.